These men that are doing this, why? Why is it that we women are giving all this power to men repeatedly? Why is it they're able to do this and we aren't? It's like Posey. She was demonetized on YouTube with boys. And it's very much this handing over all the power to men. And, that's not great for
Yeah,
me
but
to.
you know what? Like, we already know BB's a disappointment. So it's not like, it's not like she's handing it off to some, stellar guy and then he's disappointed us. She's handing it off to a person that's already a disappointment and already on the other side of this issue. So there's a lot of confusion about this. And I'm guessing that she's doing it because, she wants to get in the fray because she's a warrior. She wants to
Yeah,
get in there and fight. But I don't really think she understands the level of negativity that is felt towards Benjamin Boyce, and it's been growing, and he's American. So, like,
yeah.
just like I don't understand Graham Linehan, like, as well as somebody that,
Not a fan of his either, sorry.
yeah, but like watched his show or did, like, like I would guess that someone from England has a much greater understanding of, Graham Linehan's, someone in Gender Critical, history and how people feel about him and whether, like, whatever indiscretions he's done.
Most people might, but I had no clue because I'd never watched any of his stuff. I've never heard of him until I entered the gender critical, come onto Twitter and started hearing about stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, most people in England might, but like, no, but I did not hear of Graham Linehan until I got into this Gender Critical, stuff. I would have never heard of him, like, it's like there's a lot here in America, like we're busy with our own shit. Like, I don't know what he looks like from, like, this seated in English culture, right? Because I'm not from England and I don't know that perspective, right? I can't even presume to guess. I can only say from my side in America, I'm thinking, does she know how weaselly this guy actually looks and how, like, weird this looks? Like,
This is just something that I've been noticing generally, and uh, a bit concerned about. Um, and it is relevant to what you're discussing and everything. It's what we're exposing ourselves to in this conversation. I brought it up in another space. Just maybe we can all start thinking a little, very carefully about what we're sharing, even if it's like a description of something vulgar or sexually vulgar or graphic. Sharing that I'm really beginning to feel is exposing ourselves to content that isn't very healthy for us to be exposed to over and over and over.
yeah, I don't want to look at that, so I don't do it anymore. And even though I say I don't do it, there's sometimes when like, even yesterday I put out, it wasn't like that bad of one, but it was still some gross thing, and and I wanted to make a point, so I'm working on that.
Well, I think there's a
As I,
there's a fuzzy line between wanting to share information and then exposure to not great content.
it's some kind of sick, another one of their sick numbers they did to us, and we did to ourselves, which is like their perfect shit. They love to, like, put it out there and let us do all the work doing their shit, right? Because we did all get addicted to that. We're addicted to reading these horrible stories. We're addicted to reading funny stories about them. We're addicted to reading stories about, whether their fucking, wound hole is, getting hairs or not. Like, I mean, we read, like, these details about their lives. It's like, we do not fucking need to look at that shit. But it's this game now, and everybody's playing some weird media game where they're like, I gotta make my $10 a week for my subscribers. So I gotta go mine some Reddit thread and put out some obscure blah, blah, blah. And it's boring. And like, is that what you want to be? Boring?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that for the really graphic stuff, like the surgical like wound nightmares, I think we all know how to like mute that or like not see it in our feed as much. Also, like my two options are just continue to like shitpost random stuff that's completely unrelated to what is my primary interest, which is like protecting women and girls, or post what turns out to be some gruesome shit, you know, which I end up doing quite a bit, reposting, hopefully not very graphic stuff, but definitely things that outrage me and make me like really, really angry, like a lot of the time. What I'm gonna say about the posting of the consequences of quote unquote gender affirming surgery, I think for I don't know, for me it's been a whole thing. Like I am same sex attracted. I date mostly butch women if I can, and masculine presenting or whatever that is, like, you know, close to 100% of the time. And so there's been this like attrition. There's been this like enormous deception perpetrated on these women, and many of them are detransitioners, desisters, whatever, like in my generation have been, you know, sold up the river. And a lot of them, like, they didn't know really what the outcomes were going to be. Like they weren't informed properly. They weren't giving meaningful consent because they didn't realize, you know, what it was going to what the functionality was going to be afterwards, and so forth. So I have a lot of sympathy with people with accounts that are posting the harsh realities of the euphemistically quote unquote top surgery. Now, I don't think it's good to call it mutilation, because I also don't want to shame these women. And so it's like it's complicated feelings, you know, like there's a lot there, and I think that like probably like certain parts of our gender critical or like rad femme leaning community have different angles on it.
I mean, they use the word mutilation. I mean, like I've heard them use it. So it's like I don't change my language. I mean, I can give empathy without changing my language. You
Yeah,
know,
there's just no way I'm gonna do that to a potential lover. There's no way I'm gonna put like stuff out there that she's gonna see and feel like, oh, like you know, there's already, and I don't want to get like too into it, but there's already like all these no-go zones, usually, you know, between women, many times have faced violence, trauma, etc. Like if like, do you know what I mean? I just think it
but
for me,
would you get in a real? I mean, you know, honestly don't know. Like maybe it's so rampant in, you know, the lesbian community that like there's just 50-50. Would you get in a relationship with somebody that, you know,
that didn't have her breasts, that like for me it's basically you've been in a war. Like that's how I honestly look at it. Like, and yeah, I don't blame these women who've had this done to them, because it was in the vast majority of cases the result of incredible pressure by an entire community.
and that's why, you know, that's why we need the firm hard liners, because that's what happens when you don't have a firm hand, you know. It's just it is what it is. Shunning is the only answer. And like, you know, we can't, somebody's got to go, and it's not going to be us, you know. And like the empathy part is that we'll be saving lives and saving, you know, these young men from going down the bad path, because they're going to be scared that they're going to get ostracized, and that's going to make them stop, because that's the only thing that's ever made them stop. But go ahead, sorry, Chandler.
Yes. So, first statement I have. So, who was it that said you don't want to call it mutilation? Because, in are we talking about both
That was me.
surgeries? Are you? Whenever we say mutilation, are we talking about both, the transsexual women's surgeries and the female surgeries? Like, are we talking about both, or are we
No, I'm
just talking
talking about
the women?
exclusively what's perpetrated on women and what's the most common gender affirming surgery for homosexual women, a radical mastectomy. That's what I'm talking about, not
Why
wanting
is it
to call
okay?
mutilation.
And I'll be honest, I've seen, like, you know, just because I'm kind of a medical nerd myself, I've, you know, looked on, don't ask me why, just to kind of see like how these surgeries are done, like these gender affirming surgeries or whatever.
Yeah.
I've watched like surgical videos on how it's done. You know, people like to call it mutilation. I mean, technically, you know, it is unnatural.
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
mutilation. I agree. No, it is. It's
but why is it
removing
okay to
healthy
call
tissue.
a man's mutilation but not a woman's? I mean, it's both mutilation, correct?
Sure. But I mean,
Yeah.
I stated my reasoning because mine is completely out of a deep, deep empathy for the women who've had it done to them. And specifically with homosexual women, I think that it's a form of like surviving the gender war. It's like a wound, a war wound. That's how I've decided to frame it because I'm often in a relationship with women, like intimate sexual relationships with women who've been de facto mutilated. But if I, like, you know, a lover speak that way about their body, that is unnecessarily cruel and I won't do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The
Okay.
second thing I wanted to ask was, whenever we're talking about shunning, are we only shunning AGP males, or are you guys just wanting to shun every single transsexual person? Are you talking about shunning or shaming? I'm going to be honest here. I don't have a problem with transsexual people.
Okay, well, you know what? You know, if you can be friends with whoever you want, but we have to have a boundary, and true trans is the boundary. Now, these guys that are like transsexuals and they're like, we know we're men or whatever. If you want to engage with them, go ahead. In my experience, they have a little bit of the fetishistic tendencies, so I don't like to be in conversations or dialogue with them. And that's just my general assessment of it. Like, you know, you can experiment with that and find, I mean, like, because the best way to find out is to find out for yourself.
Well, I found out for myself, and you know, they have been some of the best people who I've ever talked to. I've become very, very close friends with a couple of them. In fact, you know, oh, laugh all you want, okay? But one of them,
Yeah, they're
literally
grooming you, so good luck.
grooming me. You know what?
Mhm.
One of them literally stops me from killing myself. So how would you shut up?
Well, why, when they stopped you, was that your friend group? Why were you at
Well,
the point?
yeah, I was in a pretty
yourself?
dark place. And you know what? Who stood by my side? It was my friends. Okay, it wasn't the gender criticals. It wasn't.
Misogynist Mike. You mean your friend Mike?
No, not my friend Mike. To inform you, no, it was not my friend Mike. It was somebody else. Frankly, that's none of your business. But you know,
I
you
don't
guys.
know anything about what happened to you, but you know, what I would say is, if you were in a state where you were going to kill yourself and these were your friends, you might want to take a look at who your friends are that would bring you to that state.
Well,
You know,
no, it wasn't them that brought me to that state. It was not them. And you know who wasn't there? It wasn't any of these so-called women. You know, I'm gonna stand up for women and let women speak. Like, you know, you
well,
guys.
you know what? The other part of this is there's a little bit of the propaganda mixed in here, because you're talking about suicide again, some threat of suicide that didn't happen, and that's a TRA tactic. So it's like, I mean, I don't think you're a TRA. I think that you're, you know, young and you need to experience what these people are like.
I hang out with them every single
Don't
day.
mix with us while you do it. Then
mess with you. I'm literally
no,
on your side.
Mix. Not mess. Don't
So this is
mix.
a cult. So this is a cult, okay? You just
This
proved
isn't
that
a
this is
cult.
Yes,
This isn't a cult. We have a standard to not have perverts in our group. That is what the fucking line is.
Perverts.
Yes. Yes.
You're calling me a pervert. You're literally
No. You're a pervert apologist.
Pervert apologist?
You are.
Oh my god.
You are. You
Dude,
are. I mean,
remove her from the space. Remove her. Like,
Oh yeah, silence me like you guys always
I'm
do. You
not
fucking
silence
bitches.
you.
Go
Open
away.
up your
Run
own
away. Make me a
space.
sandwich. Suck my dick. You know, if I had one, do it. Okay.